In between scenes, he'd just be sitting with extras talking. Like, no big actors do that, by the way. No big actors do that. Like, we'd have to pull him away from the extras. Be like, Mel, stop telling stories. Come on, we got to get back in the scene. He's a humble guy.
Came after me, man. What came after you?
There's definitely something weird going on here. Monsters.
Yeah.
Congratulations on Monster Summer being out in the world.
Thank you. Thank you. We can't wait for people to check it out.
Tell us about Monster Summer and why you chose it as your directorial follow-up.
So my favorite memories as a kid were when I'd go to the movies with my dad. He would pick me up from school and be like, surprise, we're going to the movies today. And we did that all the time. I grew up with classic movies that I could get something from and my father could get something from. And it's some of my best memories. When I read this script, it took me back to a time when I was a kid and reminded me of those warm, fuzzy feelings I got watching works from Richard Donner or Spielberg, Zemeckis and others. It brought back all those fuzzy feelings. And I was like, man, if there's ever a time to escape into that world again, it's now. And I was obsessed with the script because the theme spoke to me. There's this theme at its core, which is evil only wins when good men do nothing. It's made for a Halloween event movie for the movie theaters. Like it is a fun adventure that if you're a millennial, you'll go for nostalgia. But if you're a parent and a kid, it's the perfect vehicle to have that Halloween viewing. And to get to work with a movie star in Mel Gibson and a future movie star, Mason Thames, at the core of this, it just all came together.
It was filmed back in, was it late 2021, early 2022? Is that right?
2022, yeah.
So that was a pretty tumultuous time in the world, obviously. Did the pandemic cause any challenges for you with production or anything like that?
Oh yeah, we got shut down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
there was a 2 week shutdown that was just torture and really tough for our film because we're an independent movie. Like we're making this for noble reasons here. We're trying to give families and millennials a great time that they can just have a good time in the movie theaters again and not have to worry about what's in the movie or politics or anything. So our heart's in the right place for this. So a shutdown was really difficult, but we've overcome every single obstacle and challenge. And I'm proud of how our team has faced the headwinds with this. Because, yeah, we made a movie in the most difficult time in the world to make a movie. And it's finally coming out.
Now everyone gets to see it.
Yes.
You're obviously extremely busy in front of the camera as well. And you're working on Wizards Beyond Waverly Place now. How did you find the time to fit in the incredible workload that comes with directing?
What I love about this business is you can create art that can leave an impact on audiences. And that's why I'm doing this. Like, I want to make entertaining and elevating content. That's what drives me. And this script and this story, I was just obsessed with. I was like, I got to make this movie. So, really, everything else revolved around it. And I did whatever it took to help push us across the finish line.
Because you have quite young children as well, don't you?
Yes, I do. I have 3.
I was going to say I have an 18-month-old, and sometimes I don't know how I get dressed in the morning. So it's incredibly impressive that you found. I've only got one.
Credit goes to my wife. My wife is amazing. She's great with the kids.
So this kind of family-friendly spooky adventure, it's a really fun way for younger generations, as you said, to get into things like horror and those a little bit more PG kind of films. Which films did you see as inspiration for Monster Summer? You mentioned Richard Donner and Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, definitely The Goonies, definitely Monster Squad, E.T., The Sandlot. Those were kind of the 4 pillars that the film stands on. There's elements of all of those films in this. And Jaws. This is like Jaws, but the shark is on the island.
And you also got Patrick Renner, speaking of the Sandlot.
When we only had a script and a couple producers and nothing else, I just turned to my producing partners and I was like, we got to get Patrick Renna in this somehow. The great Hambino. I don't know what he's going to do, but he's got to be in this movie somehow.
Yeah.
And we made it work. I think you'll be really happy with his performance in this film. And he got to be on the baseball field again. It was classic. So he was great. Mel was great. Like Lorraine Bracco, the whole cast was wonderful.
Yeah, that was a stroke of genius. And speaking of the cast, it is an incredible cast that you've got here, from up and coming talents, like you said, like Mason Thames, to the titans of the industry like Mel Gibson. How did you change your approach to directing with those different dynamics on set?
You know, I've been very fortunate to have a long acting career now, 26 years, and I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to kid acting. So I wanted to create an atmosphere where the kids didn't feel threatened and felt free to perform. And to me, the best set environments for kids are ones that kind of feel like a sport. So it's not life or death. It's an atmosphere that you can be pushed, but not scarred.
Right.
So that really was the culture I sought to create, where we can push the kids, but we're not going to hurt them in any way, shape, or form, and empower them to want to communicate, to take ownership of their craft, to hone their talents. I really did bring every lesson I've learned as a kid actor to the table, and I've also gotten to work with some Oscar caliber actors in the past, and I know how they want to be treated as well. With Mel Gibson, you have to be very focused on story, very focused on character, and make sure you're communicating clear and effectively, and not over noting. And I only had to give Mel like one or two notes in the entire film. So he's a Ferrari. I mean, he's just so
Yeah.
good. He taught me more than I was able to give him anything. So yeah, it was a joy. It was a joy all the way through.
Well, as you mentioned, obviously Mel is an accomplished actor director himself. Did you connect over what that's like with him, and did he offer any insights for you?
He taught me so much, mainly by the way of just his kind of leadership style. He's a humble guy. Like in between scenes, he'd just be sitting with extras talking. Like no big actors do that, by the way. No big actors do that. Like we'd have to pull him away from the extras, be like, Mel, stop telling stories. Come on, we got to get back in the scene. He's a humble guy. He didn't go in his dressing room once. We got him a gorgeous dressing room, which like was massive. It was like a house. And he didn't use it at all. He stayed next to me the entire time, pitching ideas. He's fundamentally so sound when it comes to filmmaking. And what I learned from him was just keep telling the story always. Even if you're very prepared and you know what you're doing and all that, like just keep looking for how to tell the story in the overall big picture. And that'll stick with me.
The film, it has that fairy tale element to it, and fairy tales tend to have these takeaway lessons for kids underlying. What's the underlying message in Monster Summer? You said obviously, if good men do nothing, evil wins.
Well, that's one of the major takeaways for sure. And I love that you compared it to a fairy tale, because fairy tales were so rich with meaning and symbolism that can be applied to one's life. And that is how I looked at this film, was like a big fairy tale. I called it that all the time on set. It is a big fairy tale. So, in fairy tales, like why is there dragons and why is there gold? It's like, because these things represent things in your life that you're going to have to slay and overcome to achieve your potential. Gold represents your potential, right? There's a lot of that symbolism in this film, particularly for old people and young people. There's themes of redemption with Mel Gibson's character that he explores, and then with the young person in the film, he has a friendship dynamic that is challenging because his friends at times don't believe him. And if everyone said what you were doing is wrong, but you knew it to be right, would you still pursue that? That's certainly a theme that's at play in this film, as well as the quote, "Evil wins when good men do nothing." That's all at play at this film, and that really is at the core of it. And it all goes to war in this film. You'll have to see how it plays out, but that there's a lot of that here.
And as a journalist, even I took a message away that get your facts straight before you start throwing accusations around.
Exactly right. Exactly right. That's right. Yes. Yes.
Get
And
those facts right.
The story matter. The people in the story matter the most.
What's next for you? What's on your directing bucket list?
I would love to keep telling commercial popcorn fun movies that have heart and a filmmaker's lens throughout it. So take people on a journey, have them escape to a world. So I look for sticky themes and worlds to establish. So hopefully this will be just the tip of the iceberg.
Obviously, with Wizards Beyond Waverly Place and then the monster film, do you like those kind of sci-fi fantasy kind of themes as well?
I love those genres because they are such a fun way to explore the human experience and learn greater lessons. Like, I don't think I'll ever make like a gritty realist, like,
Clint Eastwood movie.
Yeah, Clint Eastwood movie, or like some new wave film. That's not me. Those aren't things that I enjoy and that I like. I'm not an artsy festival guy. That's just not me. And by the way, I study those films, I see those films, I learn, but I don't enjoy those. So I would never criticize one, because I think you should critics should only be allowed to criticize things they enjoy, because otherwise they don't like it in general. So why would they criticize something they're not going to like despite who makes it? Anyways, that's a whole sidebar. But
No,
yeah, I
very
want to
good
make
point.
commercial fun thing.
We're all about celebrating the joy of cinema here at Popcorn Podcast. Can you remember a film or a moment in film that you've seen on the big screen, whether when you were a kid or recently, that really brought you joy and stayed with you?
Yeah, I mean,
That's a
Pixar
big
movies,
question.
the Pixar movies growing up, Lion King and Toy Story as a kid, those meant a lot to me. And then as I got older, the end of ET, or um big movie moments that like stuck with me forever. The ending of Fight Club, how they got the caper done in Ocean's 11, the first one there. And I mean, there's so many movies. Rocky, the end of Rocky, where
Yeah.
he sticks his hands up and everything. And these are the Star Wars, of course. I Am Your Father. Like these these things just are glued in the back of my mind.
Such great moments. Thank you so much for sharing those.